Hi everyone, so welcome to the first edition of a Bake at Home with Cookery Doodle Doo. It's all a bit strange, but I'm sure we'll all get used to this. So I've got everything here. Hopefully you've either got your Bake at Home kit, which you can get directly from me, which has got all the ingredients you need already weighed out, or if not, then you've had a look online, you've seen what ingredients you need and you've got them ready to cook with. So before we get going, we need to make sure we're clean, particularly at the moment, but always when we're cooking anyway. So please make sure you've got your apron on, make sure your hands are really clean, and make sure you've tied back any long hair because we don't want hairy flatbreads. Okay, so we're going to start by making the actual bread mix itself. It's a really easy one. We quite often have it when we're having curry or something like that at home. If we haven't got any naan breads, I will just make this flatbread recipe without putting the stuffing in it, and it does just make a really simple flatbread. So what we've got here is a bowl and a wooden spoon, and in your kits you will have had some self-raising flour. You need 100 grams of self-raising flour and a big pinch of salt. Now that's already in here if you've got the kit from me, and that's the reason I've left it in this bag, just to show you don't add extra salt now because I have already done it for you. Okay, so into that we're just going to get our wooden spoon and we're going to make a little well in the middle. And into that little well, we're going to put half a tablespoon of olive oil. That's the only thing that's not in your kits, just because I couldn't figure out how to package half a tablespoon of olive oil. If you haven't got olive oil, that's absolutely fine. You can use vegetable oil, sunflower oil, you can even use coconut oil or something like that, although obviously you will need to melt that first. I don't know because I've never tried it, but possibly even melted butter might work for that. So you've got all kinds of different options. So I was hoping that you could all find some of that. And into that we're going to add about half of the yoghurt as well. So you should have in your kit 80 grams of plain yoghurt. This is low fat, but any that you can get your hands on, frankly. And we're just going to mix that together, and it should come together pretty easily, but you will need more of the yoghurt. I can't give you an exact quantity of yoghurt because it depends entirely on how thirsty the flour's feeling. So on a hot sunny day you will probably need less yoghurt than you would on a cold and wet day, because that's what flour does. Okay, so I'm just going to add a bit more yoghurt, and we're just going to mix that until we feel like it's going to come together. There we go. Now there's always a bit of yoghurt stuck to the spoon, so when it's still looking a bit dry like that, it's a good time to just get your hands in and make sure you've got all of that wetness off the spoon. I'm just going to get my hands in there and just bring it together. And although it looked like it was too dry before, you can see all that flour is now beginning to stick together. So we didn't need quite all of that yoghurt, so that's about how much I've got left. It will be different for you. Okay, so we've got that dough together now. I'm just going to get a board. Now you've got an extra little twist of flour in the kits if you've bought the kits, just to dust your work surface. And we're just going to bring that dough and just give it a little knead just to bring it together. It doesn't need much kneading. We're not making a proper bread with yeast that needs lots and lots of kneading to develop the gluten. It doesn't need to rise or anything like that. Very, very simple. That's all we need to do. Okay, I'm just going to get a knife and I'm going to cut that in half because we're going to make 2 flatbreads. Okay, now the trick to this is when we roll out the flatbreads, we're going to fold it in half with the filling in the middle. So we need to make sure that whatever shape we end up with is relatively symmetrical, which means that when it's in half, it's the same shape and size on either side. Okay, so if you're worried about that, what you could do is do it round and just cut round a dinner plate or something, and then you know it's properly symmetrical. I'm just going to roll it out into a rectangle. It is a flatbread, so it needs to be relatively thin. I'm just going to do one at the moment because it's pretty boring watching me do the second one. But there's one of my halves rolled out there. Okay, so you're going to do that to both of your flatbreads. And then just give my hands a little wipe. We need to make the filling. So I've got myself a bowl here, and inside your kit, if you've got the kit, you should have a garlic clove and you should have some herbs here. Now, the good way to get this papery skin off a garlic clove is to just put it down on a surface and just give it a little push with anything you've got to hand really. That's the bottom of a mug, but you can use, if you're a grown-up, a flat-bladed knife or anything like that. That just helps the skin come off really easily. Okay, and we're going to pop that into a garlic crusher and we're going to squeeze. You need your big muscles now. Squeeze that garlic into the bowl and scrape it off. If it's a small garlic clove, you probably want to make sure that you've got it all in there. If it was a bigger one, you can obviously choose to leave some of that out if you don't want it too garlicky. So there's our garlic, and then we're going to add half a teaspoon of oregano and 1/4 teaspoon of thyme. Now, if you haven't got the kit and you're just having a rummage in the cupboards, you could use mixed herbs, you could use chili flakes, really anything, or you can just leave it out completely if you don't have anything suitable. Okay, so all we're going to do is give that a little mix, and then we're going to get our cheese in there. So that's 60 grams of grated cheese, any cheese you like. The one in your kit, if you've got that, is cheddar. But if you've got a mix of mozzarella and cheddar, or anything that's going to be nice and melty in the middle of your flatbread, that'll be lovely. There we go. We just want to make sure that all of the cheese is really well coated with the herbs and garlic, because what you don't want is a big lump in one corner of your flatbread that's got all the garlic in. Okay, so obviously I'm just making one flatbread at the moment. You'll be doing 2 at a time. So I'm just going to use half of this cheese, and I want you to imagine, we're going to fold this in half in a minute, so just imagine half of it, and you're going to put your cheese in the middle of that first half. Okay, nice and generous. I think that's about half. Save the rest for the other one. And all I'm going to do now is we need to make sure that's really well sealed in, because we don't want it to melt and all ooze out. We want the ooziness to happen when we eat it, not in the oven. So I've got a little pot of water here, and you can either use a finger or you can use a pastry brush, and you're just going to go right around the edges. Try to keep the cheese in the middle, it's a bit fiddly. There we go. And that will just help the flatbread stick together. So once you're wet all the way around, make sure your cheese is out of the way, because that will stop it sticking. And then we're just going to fold it over, and hopefully, if we got the shape kind of symmetrical, so about the same on the two sides, it should just stick together like that. And you might want to just go around and give it a really good squeeze. Make sure that cheese stays right in the middle. Okay, obviously if you're making 2 flatbreads, you'd repeat that now with the other piece of bread and the rest of the cheese. I'm just going to put those to one side. And all I'm going to do is get a little bit more of the olive oil, which is why I've said a tablespoon, because you do need a bit more than just the half tablespoon we used earlier. We're just going to brush the top of that flatbread with a little bit more oil, and that will just help it go all lovely and golden and delicious in the oven. Now, what I haven't said on the recipe card, because it really isn't essential, but if you want to, you can then sprinkle something on the top of here. So if you've got any sesame seeds or anything like that that you might want to pop on the top, I've got something here which is a bit different. These are called black onion seeds. They're sometimes called nigella seeds as well. They're a really lovely deep black colour, and they just make the top of it look really cool. So just have a little look in your cupboard and see what you've got. But if there's nothing in your cupboard that works, then don't worry about it. And we're just going to get a baking tray now. I've got these brilliant silicone mats, nothing sticks to those, but obviously just use some baking paper or just grease the tray. We're going to pop our flatbreads, obviously there'll be another one there in a minute when I make my other one, and we're going to pop those into the oven, which I've had preheating at 200 degrees, and we're going to bake them for about 8 to 10 minutes, but we need to make sure they're golden and they're cooked right through. Enjoy! Hi everyone, so since we recorded that bit of video, the flatbreads have been sat waiting until it was time for John and I to have our tea. So as you can see, I'm wearing something different, and I've just found out that unfortunately the sanctions have got even more restrictive. So by the time you see this, the Bake at Home kits probably won't be available anymore, but if you did have one, then I really hope you enjoyed the video. If not, I'm going to continue recording a new video every week. There'll be a new recipe. We can still bake along together, just not with the kits for the moment. So, without further ado, let's have a look at what they looked like. There we go. There's the easy cheesy flatbreads. Really hope you enjoy them, and I look forward to cooking with you again soon. Bye bye.